the equilibrium between heaven and hell. For anything to happen, there needs to be an equilibrium of everything involved. If there is no equilibrium, there is no action and reaction, because the equilibrium occurs between two forces, one acting and the other reacting. The state of rest arising from equal agents and reagents is called an equilibrium. In the natural world, there is equilibrium throughout. In general, in the atmospheres, the lower layers of which react and resist to the extent that the upper layers act and bear down. In the natural world, there are also states of equilibrium between warmth and cold, light and darkness, dry and wet. Their median blend is the balance point. There is also an equilibrium in the members of all three of Earth's kingdoms, mineral, plant, and animal. For nothing would occur in those kingdoms if it were not for the equilibrium. Everywhere, there is a kind of effort acting from one side and another reacting from the other. Every event or every result happens in an equilibrium, or happens by one force acting and another allowing itself to be acted upon, or by one force actively flowing in and the other accepting and yielding appropriately. In the natural world, what acts and reacts is called force or energy, but in the spiritual world, what acts and reacts is called life and volition. Life there is a living force, and volition is a living energy, and the actual equilibrium is called a state of freedom. This spiritual balance, or freedom, occurs then between the good acting from the one side and the evil reacting from the other, or from the evil acting on the one side and the good reacting from the other. The balance between active good and reactive evil applies to good people, and the balance between active evil and reactive good applies to evil people. The reason the spiritual balance is between good and evil is that all human life has to do with good and evil, and our volition is their recipient vessel. There is also a balance between what is true and what is false, but this is secondary to the balance between good and evil. The balance between the true and the false is like the balance between light and darkness, whose effect on members of the plant kingdom depends on the amount of warmth or cold there is in the light or darkness. You can tell that the light and shade themselves do not accomplish anything, only the warmth they bring from looking at like amounts of light and darkness in winter and in spring. The comparison of truth and falsity to light and darkness rests in their correspondence. Since truth corresponds to light and falsity to darkness, and warmth corresponds to the goodness of love. Further, spiritual light is truth, spiritual darkness is falsity, and spiritual warmth is the goodness of love. There is a constant balance between heaven and hell. An effort to do evil is constantly emanating upward from hell, and an effort to do good is constantly emanating down from heaven. The world of spirits is in this equilibrium. The reason the world of spirits is in this equilibrium is that after death, we first enter the world of spirits and are kept in the same state we were in the world. This could not happen unless there were a perfect balance there. This allows everyone to be examined there as to quality, since we keep the same kind of freedom we had in the world. Spiritual equilibrium is a state of freedom for us and for spirits, as just noted. Angels in heaven can tell the kind of freedom people have by a communication of affections and consequent thoughts. It also becomes visible to angelic spirits from the paths people follow. Good spirits follow paths that lead to heaven, and evil spirits follow paths that lead to hell. These paths are actually visible in that world, which is why paths in the word mean truths that lead to what is good, or in an opposite sense, falsities that lead to what is evil. This is also why going, walking, and traveling in the Word mean processes of life. I have often been allowed to see paths like these, with spirits walking along on them freely, in accord with their own affections and consequent thoughts. The reason evil is constantly emanating up from hell and good emanating down from heaven is that everyone is surrounded by a spiritual aura, an aura that flows out in waves from the life of our affections and their thoughts. Further, since this kind of aura flows out from every individual, it also flows out from every heavenly community and every hellish community, therefore from everyone at once, or from all heaven and all hell. The reason good flows out from heaven is that everyone there is involved in what is good. And the reason evil flows out from hell is that everyone there is involved in what is evil. All the good that comes from heaven is from the Lord, since the angels who are in the heavens are all kept out of their self-image and kept in the Lord's image, which is goodness itself. On the other hand, all the spirits who are in the hells are in their own self-image, and everyone's own self-image is nothing but evil. And since it is nothing but evil, it is hell. We may gather from this that the equilibrium angels in the heavens and spirits in the hells are kept in is not like the balance that obtains in the world of spirits. The equilibrium of angels in the heavens depends on how much they had wanted to be involved in good, or had lived in goodness in the world, how opposed they were to evil, while the equilibrium of spirits in hell depends on how much they had wanted to be involved in evil, or had lived in evil in the world. That is, how resistant they had been to the good in heart and in spirit. If the Lord were not in control of both the heavens and the hells, there would be no equilibrium. And if there were no equilibrium, there would be no heaven or hell. Absolutely everything in the universe, everything in both the natural world and the spiritual world, is constituted by an equilibrium. Any rational person can grasp this. Let one side outweigh the other with no resistance offered, and will not both be destroyed. This is what would happen in the spiritual world if the good did not react against the evil and constantly suppress its rebellions. Unless the divine power and nothing else did this, heaven and hell would perish, and the whole human race along with them. I refer to the divine power and nothing else, because the selfhood of every angel, every spirit, and every one of us is nothing but evil. This means that no angel or spirit can ever resist the evil influences that are constantly breathed out of the hells, since we all incline toward hell because of our self-concern. We can see from this that if the Lord alone were not in control of both the heavens and the hells, there would be no salvation for anyone. Not only that, all the hells act in unison because the evil energies of the hells are all interconnected the way the good energies are in the heavens, and nothing but the only divine power can resist all the countless hells acting in concert against heaven and everyone there. That one divine power emanates from the Lord. The balance point between the heavens and the hells shifts down and up depending on the number of people entering heaven and entering hell, which amounts to thousands every day. Knowing and grasping this, adjusting and centering the pointer of the scales, is something no angel can do. Only the Lord, since the emanating divine nature is everywhere present and is everywhere watching every deviation. Angels see only what is around them and do not even sense within themselves what is happening in their own community. Everything in the heavens and the hells is so arranged that each individual there is in a personal equilibrium. We can, to some extent, gather this from what has already been presented concerning the heavens and the hells. That is, all the communities of heaven are very precisely differentiated according to the genera and species of their goodness, and all the communities of hell according to the genera and species of their evils. Further, there is a corresponding community of hell underneath every community of heaven, and this opposing correspondence yields an equilibrium. So the Lord is constantly making sure that the hellish community under any heavenly one does not get too strong. To the extent that one begins to get too strong, it is brought under control by various means and returned to its proper balanced relationship. I shall mention only a few of the many means. Some involve a stronger presence of the Lord. Some involve closer communication and union of one or more communities with others. Some involve the exile of extra hellish spirits into desert places. Some the transfer from one hell to another. Some the reorganization of the people in the hells, which also is accomplished in various ways. Some involve concealing some of the hells under thicker and heavier coverings, some sending them down deeper. Then there are other means, some involving the heavens overhead. I mention this so that there may be some grasp of the fact that only the Lord provides that there shall be a balance between good and evil everywhere, and therefore between heaven and hell. On this kind of equilibrium depends the salvation of everyone in the heavens and everyone on earth. It needs to be realized that the hells are constantly attacking heaven and trying to destroy it, and that the Lord is constantly protecting the heavens by restraining the people there from the evils that arise from their self-concern, and by keeping them involved in the good that comes from Him. I have often been granted a sense of the aura that radiates from the hells, an aura of nothing but efforts to destroy the divine nature of the Lord, and therefore heaven as well. At times, I have also perceived forces boiling up from certain hells, made up of efforts to break free and wreak destruction. On the other hand, the heavens never attack the hells, since the divine aura that emanates from the Lord is a constant effort to save everyone. Since the people in the hells cannot be saved, all the people there being engrossed in evil and opposed to the Lord's divine nature, the attacks within the hells are kept as subdued as possible, and mutual viciousness is held within bounds. This too is accomplished by countless exercises of divine power. The heavens are differentiated into two kingdoms, the heavenly kingdom and the spiritual kingdom. Similarly, the hells are differentiated into two kingdoms, one opposite to the heavenly kingdom and one opposite the spiritual kingdom. The one opposite to the heavenly kingdom is in the western quarter, and the people who live there are called demons, while the one that is opposite the spiritual kingdom is in the northern and southern quarter, and the people who live there are called spirits. All the people in the heavenly kingdom are involved in a love for the Lord, and all the people in the hells opposite to that kingdom are involved in love for themselves. All the people who are in the spiritual kingdom are involved in love for their neighbor, and all the people who are in the hells opposite to that kingdom are involved in love of the world. This has enabled me to see that love for the Lord and love for oneself are opposites, as are love for our neighbor and love of the world. The Lord is constantly taking care that nothing should flow out from the hells opposite to the Lord's heavenly kingdom toward the people who are in the spiritual kingdom. If this were to happen, the spiritual kingdom would be destroyed. These are the two general balances that the Lord is constantly keeping intact.